What we're intending to do for this session is we will run through where we are organisationally in terms of those developments. We'll have a little bit of a retrospective on Wave 1 qualifications and any questions or issues you wanted to pick up in terms of Wave 1. We'll talk about Wave 2 specifications and where we are in the development of the digital resources and professional learning for Wave 2. And then, as importantly, we'll pick up on Wave 3 in terms of our approach to developing qualifications that meet the Wave 3 specifications. Just in terms of housekeeping, so obviously, as we're in a Teams meeting, you're able to use the chat facility if you wanted to ask a question. At any point during the session, you're more than welcome to use chat, but also when we get to the end, I'll open it up for any kind of verbal questions you might wish to ask based on anything we've said, or perhaps more importantly, anything we haven't said that you would have expected us to say. We are also recording the meeting, so you will get a copy of this in due course once we've gone through the translation processes and making sure that everything's working as it should. Okay, so thank you, colleagues, for giving up your time to come to this session today. I know how busy you are, and we're really grateful that you're taking the opportunity to come to meet with us in order for us to share the updates, as I've already described. So in terms of today's session, we'll have a quick input from me in terms of just overview from WJC perspective. So as you know, I'm Ian Morgan, the Chief Exec. Colleagues with me today are Delyth Jones, and Delyth is our Assistant Director for Quality Development for GQ. And then Richard Harry, who's our Exec Director for Qualifications and Assessment. Thanks, Diana. So I know you all know this, but just important to set the context for why we are developing these new qualifications. So it's all linked back to supporting the curriculum for Wales. As you know, the need to redevelop GCSE specifications and the national qualifications is based on the need to make sure that the qualification system matches that of the curriculum for Wales. So it's about supporting learners in making progress towards the four purposes, making sure that we're able to develop qualifications that have the principles of progression, statements of what matters, and subject-specific skills and concept built into them, integral to the qualification development, particularly looking at where we can embed those cross-curricular themes and topics across the range and the suite of qualifications that are on offer, building on those cross-curricular skills, but also, and importantly, allowing that space for locally devised curricula. And hopefully within the qualifications that you've seen so far, the specifications for Wave 1 and Wave 2, you'll be able to see that opportunity being made where it's appropriate or applicable to do so. And then in terms of stakeholders, clearly you are pivotal to this as stakeholders, as are the wider stakeholder community. And what we've done in all the developments of this, we've taken that kind of co-construction approach. So we've worked closely with external writers and reviewers to make sure that we are reflecting classroom practice in the development of the qualifications. We've had subject-specific qualification development groups, or QDAGs as we call them, where input from you and your colleagues has been fundamental to the way that these qualifications have been developed and the way the specifications have been developed. And then over the top of that, we've had that kind of overarching qualification development advisory group, which makes sure that what we've got is something that's coherent, that's deliverable and works in school settings and in college settings, but in particularly in classrooms. And one of the most interesting and insightful groups we've had is our learner advisory group. And as you know, coming from schools and colleges, the learners are often backward in coming forward. But we've had some really interesting input from the learners in terms of their experiences of learning, teaching, learning, qualifications, and how we can reflect some of those thoughts into the design of these qualifications moving forward. And then just a broader stakeholder group with all the great and the good from organisations across Wales, with ESTIN, local authorities. But we've also worked closely then with union reference groups, so work closely with ASCL, with NAHT, with NEU, with NAS, just making sure that what we've got is something that is understood by the whole sector. This is about co-construction. This is about a range of organisations coming together to develop qualifications and deliver qualifications that meet the need of the schools and learners settings in Wales. This isn't about WJC. We are just part of the solution that we're all trying to work towards. And then just a bit of a look back, really, in terms of Wave 1, which was, academic year 24-25. So this, the specifications were launched in autumn term 2024, and as part of that, there was also guides and parents flyers and online briefings and Q&A sessions, closing that off at December in 24. I think one of the key things that we've delivered in the spring term, again, working absolutely closely with school leaders and with the teachers in schools, was the benefit of being able to deliver face-to-face preparing to teach events across Wales. And I know some of that was challenging logistically. I know some of it was challenging in terms of getting the right people in the right place at the right time. But overall, what we've seen is very positive feedback from those sessions, with 75% of our attendees reporting good or extremely good understanding of the new qualifications after attending the sessions. And I think that opportunity to come together, not only to receive input from WJEC and our staff, but actually for your colleagues to come together to talk about these things in a positive way and work together on these things, I think is hopefully what you've seen will have been really, really useful in preparation to the delivery from September of this year. And then in the summer, the on-demand exam and NEA walkthroughs were presented to you. So again, that information being available, ready for teaching in September. And then throughout this autumn term, then we're just looking at the online preparing to assess events, which will give you more guidance and support in terms of the internally assessed units, the non-examined assessment, making sure that then we've got a rounded package of support that we've given your colleagues, information that's readily available in terms of the website, in terms of accessing that information. But more importantly, we as a team are still here to answer those questions if and when they arise. You can still contact the experts at our end in order to answer some of those questions as well. So hopefully what we've seen in that kind of running through the wave one activity is a good coherent response to new specifications, support that goes with it, also underpinned by a suite of digital blended learning resources which are available on the website. You know, and that's been a rolling program of development. Content's been uploaded on a weekly basis. And at this stage, we've developed around 325 packages of digital resources to support those new qualifications. And just to rehearse how we got to that point, what we did a gap analysis in terms of the old specification and the new specification, and where there was new content, we developed content and resources to support that. Where there was content that needed adapting in order to meet the needs of the new specification, we adapted and we've made that available. And then where there was content that was similar between the two specifications, again, that is readily available for teachers. And I think the important thing in this is what we've tried to do is create a suite of blended learning resources, the knowledge organisers, guidance for teaching and all those core documents, but also provided an environment where teaching staff can amend those resources as well. And we've run a couple of sessions, twilight sessions in September for staff coming in to look at that blended learning resource and the adaptability of those resources. And again, that's been received extremely well by colleagues in terms of classroom practice and how they could use those in the most appropriate way in their own settings. So just whistle stop in terms of wave one. And now what we'll do is we'll move on to wave two, and I'll hand over to my colleague, Delyth.
Prynhawn da. Dwi am siarad yn Gymraeg. Dwi'n gobeithio bod yr cyfieithu yn gweithio, bod bawb yn medru clywed unai yn y Gymraeg neu trwy'r cyfieithydd. Felly, na I jyst sôn yn sydyn am y pynciau ton 2, felly y rhain ydy'r tgau sydd i'w dysgu o fis Medi 2026, felly yr ail don o'r cymhwysterau tgau. Mae yna un cymhwyster yna sydd ddim yn tgau, a hwnnw ydy yr cymhwyster lefel 2 mathemateg ychwanegol, a mae hwnnw chydig yn wahanol i'r un cyfredol. Mae yna fwy o opsiynau o'i fewn, a mae 6 uned i ddewis ohonyn nhw o fewn hwnnw. Fel arall, dyma y rhestr o'r cymwysterau fydd yn cael ei dysgu o flwyddyn nesaf ymlaen. Mae yna rhai pynciau newydd sbon yn fama, felly mae dawns yn newydd sbon, mae astudiaethau cymdeithasol hefyd yn un newydd sbon, a wedyn mae yna rhai sydd ychydig yn wahanol, felly mae ffilm a chyfryngau digidol yn cymryd lle astudiaethau ffilm a astudiaethau cyfryngol cyfredol, a wedyn mae addysg corfforol, mae yna rhywfaint o bwyslais ar iechyd o fewn addysg corfforol tro yma, mae yn ei hanfod cymhwyster addysg corfforol, mae hwnnw'n parhau fod. Fe welwch chi fod hanes yma hefyd, ac mae cymhwyster sydd wedi cael ei ddatblygu ar gyfer ton 1 oedd hon, Nathon ni wrando ar yr adborth oedden ni'n cael ac efo Cymwysterau Cymru a Llywodraeth Cymru di gwneud y penderfyniad i oedi y dysgu cynta. Felly mae'r gwaith o ran y deunydd cefnogol a'r dysgu proffesiynol wedi digwydd yn unol ar amserlen ar gyfer ton 1 i roed yr amser ychwanegol na i bawb fod yn barod ar gyfer cyflwyno y cymhwyster hwn sy'n eitha gwahanol i'r cymhwyster cyfredol. Fe welwch hefyd bod y ddau gymhwyster gwyddoniaeth newydd i lawr yma, felly mae'r gradd unigol y gwyddoniaeth integredig a mae'r gwyddora y cymhwyster dwyradd hefyd yna. Dwi ddim wedi cynnwys bioleg, cemeg a ffiseg mae yna yn amlwg benderfyniad wedi cael ei wneud gan Cymwysterau Cymru ynglyn â'r cymwysterau hynny, ymestyn y rhai cyfredol, a na ni ddod ymlaen i drafod hynny ac opsiynau sydd gennym ni i'w hystyried ar gyfer cymryd heina ymlaen. Felly dyna'r cymwysterau fydd yn cael eu cyflwyno o Fedi 2026 a fydd hynna'n cwblhau wedyn y gwaith ar y tygau. Felly dyma'r amserlen a mae'n dilyn yr un patrwm ar amserlen ar gyfer ton 1. Gafodd y dyddiadau allweddol yma i cytuno hefo Llywodraeth Cymru a Chymwysterau Cymru reit ar ddechrau y broses ddatblygu. Felly fe welwch erbyn hyn bod ni dipyn o'r ffordd drwy yr amserlen hon. Mis Medi pan oedd yr ysgolion wedi ailagor, fe gyhoeddon ni y manylieba terfynol, a maen nhw i gyd bellach ar gael ar yn gwefan ni. Da ni just wrth ein cwblhau cael yr deunydd asesu enghreifftiol i gyd yn barod ar gyfer cyhoeddi yn fis Rhagfyr. Da ni yn gwneud chydig bach o waith sicrhau ansawdd terfynol, gwneud yn siŵr bod gennym ni'r hawlfraint ac yn y blaen ar gwaith cyfieithu, a fydden nhw i gyd ar gael cyn diwedd y tymor i chi. Yr darn ola wedyn o'r prif ddogfenna cymhwyster na ydy yr canllaw o ddysgu. Fydd rheina'n dilyn yn mis Ionawr. So modd dechrau'r gwaith hynny, deud y gwir, tan mae'r cymhwyster wedi cael ei gymeradwyo gan Cymwysterau Cymru, ac erbyn yr ha oedd y cymwysterau gyd wedi cael ei datblygu, ac mae'r gwaith hwnnw yn mynd rhagddo, a fi'n bydd fyddan ni yn hitio y llinell amser yna o gyhoeddi popeth ym mis Ionawr 2026. O ran y pecyn cefnogaeth i athrawon na felly, bydd hwn yn dilyn eto yr un patrwm ac ar gyfer ton 1. Felly, yr amser yma flwyddyn nesaf, mi fydd y rhan gyntaf o'r amserlen dysgu proffesiynol yn digwydd, y sesiynau briffio, yr arweiniad i'r manyleba a'r taflenni i rieni, a wedyn yr sesiynau holi atab ar-lein a ddiwedd y flwyddyn. Wedyn yn y Gwanwyn, yn yr un ffordd mae Ian wedi sôn am yr holl waith ddigwyddodd ar gyfer yr sesiynau paratoi addysgu wyneb i wyneb ledled Cymru. Fydd hynna'n digwydd eto, ac mae'n tîm ni ar y funud wrthi'n cydweithio'n agos efo awdurdodau lleol ac ysgolion am yr dyddiadau yna wedi cael eu cyhoeddi a'r gwaith yn mynd rhagddi ar gyfer paratoi sesiynau buddiol yn fama eto. Yn tymor yr haf wedyn, bydd yr adnoddau arweiniad i'r arholiad ac arweiniad i'r asesiad di-arholiad yn digwydd, fydd heini ar y we, a wedyn y rhan ola o'r pictiwr amser yma flwyddyn nesaf, bydd y sesiynau paratoi asesu na i gefnogi'r athrawon ar sut i asesu yr unedau asesu mewnol. Felly dyna'r amserlen ddysgu proffesiynol ar gyfer yr ail don. O ran yr adnoddau ta, mae'r pecyn adnoddau digidol hefyd yn mynd i fod yn debyg. Da ni wedi ymrwymo i gynnig lefel debyg o gefnogaeth ar gyfer ton 2 ac yr un gafodd ei ddarparu ar gyfer ton 1. Felly adnoddau pwnc benodol dwyieithog ar gael yn rhad ac am ddim, a wedyn da chi'n medru teilwra nhw i chdibenion eich hunan ac i wneud lle unrhyw gwricwla lleol ac yn y blaen o'i fewn nhw. Felly mae'r gwaith comisiynu yna wedi dechrau ers diwedd yr haf pan oedd gennym ni amlinelliadau o'r cymwysterau a pan oedd drafftio gennym ni o'r manyleba. Felly bydd y cynhyrchion cyntaf yna fydden nhw'n dechrau cael eu cyhoeddi o'r mis yma ymlaen, a wedyn fydden nhw'n cael cyhoeddi dipyn yn dipyn nes fydd y pecyn cyfan ar gael i chi erbyn yr haf cyn y dysgu cyntaf mis Medi 2026. Dwi'n mynd i Gyffwr rwan ta ar tygau bioleg, cemeg a ffiseg fel o'n i wedi sôn amdano fo'n gynharach. Mae gennym ni arolwg sy'n cael ym hanner nos heno. Da ni wedi cael dipyn o ymatebion iddo fo, ond mae hwn yn gyfle ola, deud y gwir, i unrhyw un sy'n isio ymateb ar ôl y sesiwn yma i gwblhau yn arolwg ni, neu i rannu unrhyw sylwadau sgennach chi yn y sesiwn yma pnawn 'ma. Felly, cyhoeddodd Cymwysterau Cymru, fel dwi'n siŵr, da chi gyd yn ymwybodol, ganol Medi bod nhw yn mynd i fod yn cynnal ymgynghoriad pellach yn 2028 ynghylch ystod y cymwysterau gwyddoniaeth sydd i fod ar gael yn y dyfodol. Ond yn y cyfamser, y bydda'r tygau presennol sydd gennym ni bioleg, cemeg a ffiseg yn parhau fod ar gael, felly da ni wedi ymestyn y dyddiadau ar gyfer rheini. Do Cymwysterau Cymru ddim yn gofyn i ni wneud newidiadau nac yn dweud na ddylen ni wneud newidiadau i'r manyliba. Felly, da ni wedi bod yn ystyried be ydy'r ffordd o'r ymlaen gan fod yr cymhwyster dwyradd wedi cael ei ddatblygu mewn cyd-destun lle nad oedd y cymhwysterau unigol yma yn mynd i fod yn parhau. Felly, mae yna bethau ni ystyried o ran y pecyn cyfa sy'n mynd i fod ar gael yn y cyfnod yna yn arwain i fyny at y cyfnod ymgynghori yn 2028. Felly, da ni wedi dod â 4 opsiwn at ei gilydd, ac mae'n holl bwysig i ni bod ni'n cael barn ysgolion ar yr opsiynau yma, a oherwydd amseru'r opsiynau, mae yna oblygiadau iddyn nhw gyd lle. Felly mae'n holl bwysig bod ni'n cael barn ystod eang o'r ymddeiliad, ac o athrawon pwnc, da ni wedi cael lot o ymatebion gan athrawon pwnc, a da ni hefyd isio o ran arweinwyr ysgolion. Da ni hefyd wedi cael chydig bach o sgyrsiau efo ambell i'r ymddeiliad a di dod â'n tîm yn grŵp cynghori ar gyfer y gwyddoniaethau yn ôl at ei gilydd. Felly, 4 opsiwn gennym ni. Mae'n gwbl o opsiynau da ni ddim wedi ymgynghori arnyn nhw, felly dwi jyst am egluro pam bod ni ddim wedi gwneud hynny. Da ni ddim wedi ymgynghori ar ddod â cymwysterau wedi diwygio i mewn yn 2026 ar gyfer bioleg, cemeg a ffiseg yn y cyfanrwydd, oherwydd sa fod jyst ddim yn bosib i ni fedru diwygio'r cymwysterau cyfan a i cyflwyno nhw i chi mewn digon o amser bod athrawon yn medru bod yn barod i'w cyflwyno nhw yn 2026. Felly, doedd hwnnw ddim yn opsiwn da ni wedi bod yn cynnal yr olwg arno fo. Ac yn yr un ffordd, dydy'r opsiwn o oedi bob dim yn cynnwys cymhwyster integredig newydd a'r cymhwyster dwbl newydd tan 2027. Da ni ddim wedi ymgynghori ar hwnnw chwaith, achos ddim penderfyniad i ni wneud ydy hwnnw. Mae Cymwysterau Cymru wedi bod yn glir yn eu cyhoeddiad nhw bod nhw dal isio y cymhwysterau integredig a'r dwbl newydd i fod ar gael ar gyfer y ddysgu am y tro cyntaf o 2026. Felly, barn rhanddeiliad gan gymryd mewn ystyriaeth be di'r effaith arnach chi fel canolfanna a be di'r effaith ar ddysgwyr, mae hynny'n gorfod bod yn sail i'n penderfyniadau ni, felly eich annog chi i rannu'ch barn efo chi os nad ydych chi wedi gwneud hynny yn barod. Felly, a'n sydyn iawn drwy'r opsiynau a wedyn gofyn ar y diwedd os oes na rhywun isio trafod lle ydan ni ar hyn. Felly'r opsiwn cyntaf ydy just newid yr asesiad ymarferol, felly uned 3 yn y 3 cymhwyster yna. Mae'r asesiad ymarferol yn y dwyradd newydd wedi newid cryn dipyn, a fel o'n i'n dweud, oedden ni wedi datblygu mewn cyd-destun gwahanol, felly fydd o ddim yn bosib os na fydd newidiadau'n cael ei wneud a bod yr uned ymarferol na yn medru cael ei ddefnyddio o fewn bioleg, cemeg a ffiseg neu'r dwyradd. Felly, dydy o ddim yn bosib defnyddio'r un asesiad ymarferol o fewn yr ystod gyfan o gymwysterau o hyn ymlaen. Ond felly dyna pam bod yr opsiwn yna just i newid hwnnw, achos mae rhandeiliad bod yn deithio ni na hwnnw di'r bit sy'n mynd i fod yn cael mwyaf o effaith arnyn nhw lle. Bydda'r gweddill ddim yn newid, felly sa'r unedau 1 a 2 yn y 3 cymhwyster yn parhau i fod fel maen nhw yn y rhai cyfredol, felly just yr uned 3 na fyddai'n newid. Yr ail opsiwn ydy newid yr unedau I gyd, ond gwneud hynny mewn 2 gam, fel sa'n ni'n dod ar newid na I yr uned ymarferol I mewn yn syth, felly sa hynna medru bod I mewn o fedi 2026 ymlaen, a sa'n ni'n medru bod yn sôn am dull newydd yn y sesiynau dysgu proffesiynol na yn y Gwanwyn. Felly, sa'r carfan blwyddyn 10 sy'n dechrau mis Medi 2026 yn dilyn yr uned 3 newydd. Felly, dyna fysa cam cynta, opsiwn 2. A wedyn yr ail gam yn dilyn yn 2027. Yr un nesa ydy y byddan ni yn 2027 yn newid yr unedau eraill, felly newid unedau 1 a 2, fel y byddan nhw hefyd yn alunio yn fwy clir efo yr cymwyster dwyradd newydd. Felly, be fyddan ni'n neud I alunio rheini fysa defnyddio'r un amcanion asesu a'r un pwysoliadau, achos mae'r nhw wedi newid rhywfaint yn y cymwyster dwbl newydd. Fysa ni hefyd yn alunio'r cynnwys o ran trefn y cynnwys a o ran sy'n ma'n cael ei ddisgrifio, achos mae newidiadau wedi dod I mewn yn hynny o beth. Fysa ni yn dod ar elfen cysylltiadau'r perthnasoedd na sydd wedi dod I mewn I unedau blwyddyn 11 yn y dwyradd, fysa nhw yn dod I mewn I'r unedau 1 a 2, a wedyn fysa yna asesiad arholiad tebyg o ran arddull ar draws y cymwysterau I gyd, a hefyd y peth ola sy'n ni'n neud fysa dileu'r marciau ansawdd ymatebion estynedig na, gan bod nhw wedi mynd o'r cymhwyster dwyradd bellach. Felly, sa carfan y blwyddyn 10 sy'n dechrau mis Medi 2027 yn dilyn yr uned 1 ac uned 2 newydd. Os da ni'n mynd ymlaen i'r un nesa, opsiwn 3, mae hwn yn newid pob un o'r cymwysterau gwyddorau ar wahân gyda gilydd I addysgu am y tro cyntaf o fes Medi 2027. Felly, yr un newidiadau dwi'n newid sôn amdanyn nhw yn opsiwn 2, ond bod nhw gyd yn dod I fewn yr 2027 efo gilydd, yn lle bod y newidiadau trwy'r amser na I ysgolion, ond bod goblygiadau yn gwneud hynny hefyd. Ond mae o'n opsiwn da ni wedi bod yn ymgynghori arno fo, lle bod chi'n cael newid ar ôl newid. A wedyn opsiwn 4 ydy peidio a newid y manalebau o gwbl. Felly oedden ni'n meddwl bod o'n opsiwn pwysig bod ni yn ymgynghori a cael eich barn chi arno fo, yn enwedig gan mai penderfyniad dros dro ydy'r penderfyniad mae gan Cymwysterau Cymru, tan fydden nhw'n ymgynghori yn 2028, a wedyn fydd penderfyniad o hynny ymlaen am be fydd yn digwydd am yr ystod cymwysterau yn gwyddorau. Felly, oedden ni'n meddwl bod o'n opsiwn yma I barhau efo y bioleg, cemeg a ffiseg fel maen nhw, ond be fasa hynny yn golygu ydy y bydda 11 tasg ymarferol yn fyw mewn canolfanna ar yr un pryd, achos fysa canolfanna ddim yn medru dewis yr un tasga ymarferol ar gyfer y rhai bioleg, cemeg a ffiseg ac ar gyfer y dwyradd. Felly dyna be ydy goblygiadau yr opsiwn yna. Felly, hyd yma, da ni wedi cael, dwi'n meddwl, yn agos at 400 o ymatebion neu y bosib erbyn hyn, o'n i yn edrych arno fo bore yma, lle erbyn hyn bod o dros yr 400. Da ni ddim wedi gwneud dadansoddiad manwl ond fo edrych o ran, dachod, os oes na ddyblygu yn yr ymatebion ac yn y blaen, na wedi clirio'r data na dim byd fel na, ond o edrych arno fo'n fras, y 2 opsiwn lle mae yna fwy o gefnogaeth na sy'n na o bobl yn erbyn heini, ydy opsiwn 1 ac opsiwn 4, felly'r opsiwn o just newid yr uned ymarferol, neu'r opsiwn 4 na o newid dim. Mae hyn wedi dod at dros oedd yn eitha clir, mae o ran opsiwn 2 a 3, mae yna fwy o bobl yn erbyn rheini nag o'i plaid, a dwi'n meddwl bod hyn yn gyson efo'r sgyrsiau da ni wedi cael efo'r rhanddeiliad I gyd. Da ni wedi siarad efo nhw'n ystod y cyfnod byr yma, lle maen nhw'n teimlo unai I gadw'r newidiadau dim newid, neu I gadw'r newidiadau mor ffocws a maen nhw'n gallu bod, lle, ac I ddim I gyflwyno gormod o newid ar y pwynt yma. Felly, sy'n licio agor am unrhyw sylwadau gen unrhyw un, ac os ydy rhywun yn teimlo bod rhywbeth arall I ni ystyried, neu os oes na farn yn erbyn, be da ni wedi glywed ar ran opsiwn 1 a 4, bod yr opsiynau mwy o poblogaidd, neu os oes na farn gry ynglyn â phai yn o'r opsiwn 1 a 4, ydy'r rhaid fysa chi'n I ffafrio.
I'm not sure whether anybody wants to kind of pick up on anything that Dad said, particularly around the sciences at this point. There's a bit of stuff in the chat in terms of, can we extend the survey until the end of the week so you can link with science colleagues? I've said yes to that, so that should happen. So that'll be okay. And I think it is important, to Delyth's point, we've had about 400 responses already. I think the more responses we get, the better opportunity we've got to do the best we can in what are a tricky set of circumstances at the moment. There's probably no right way forward on some of this. We've just got to find the most pragmatic and appropriate way through, given the timings of where we are in terms of some of the decision making. I think in terms of the point raised about doing away with coursework, practical elements altogether, isn't up for debate at this stage, to be honest with you. But in the consultation that does come out in 2028, it may be another opportunity for you to raise that then as an area of concern. But I think particularly where we are now, we know the double award is happening, the specifications out there. We know that triple sciences are continuing, and we've got to find the most pragmatic and appropriate way through that to make it as streamlined as possible for delivery at your end, more than anything else. So that's why we're out to consultation. That's where we're trying to get a view on. Okay, anybody got any other thoughts or anything in terms of sciences? So we will extend until Friday. If you could encourage colleagues to fill that in, that would be really, really welcome, because we really do need their input.
To me, thank you everybody for joining. I am going to pick up the next wave of reform. From September 2027, almost all of the non-GCSE qualifications are being replaced by new suites of VCSEs, foundation qualifications, personal project and skills qualifications. We're excited to be engaged in the next stage of qualification reform. And in this kind of section of this webinar, we're going to go through some of our current thinking as we start the development of these qualifications. So on the screen is a list of VCSE subjects that we are developing, and we are focusing on those subject areas where we think we can add real value to learners and to centres. These qualifications will replace our existing vocational awards, which we know are popular with many schools, and you'll see from the list that most of our vocational award subjects will have a replacement VCSE. We're also developing new VCSEs in new subjects such as public services and creative and media production and technology. Our VCSEs will include an external assessment alongside a large practical component. In most VCSEs, the external assessment will consist of multiple choice question-based assessment and a short answer sector test designed to be taken in year 10 to assess foundational knowledge and understanding of the sector, as well as an externally set and marked non-exam assessment. These tests are not formal examinations. They will be available within an assessment window, and centres will have flexibility to timetable these within that window. The practical component will be designed to be taken in year 11 and will assess the practical skills they will develop throughout their course of study, as well as those higher order skills. When designing our VCSEs, we've met with a wide range of teachers and senior leaders, as well as sectors, stakeholders and organisations, and your feedback has directly influenced our decisions regarding the qualification structures and assessment approaches. We're also developing a suite of work-related foundation qualifications alongside the VCSEs. And while these qualifications are in the same subject areas as the VCSEs, for the most part, they are being developed for a different group of learners. Specifically, they're being developed for entry-level learners working below GCSE and VCSE level, spanning the range from entry level, from entry 1 to entry 3, which we know includes a broad spectrum of learners, and we're working hard to make sure that's reflected in the design of the qualifications. Entry 3 learners who perform above that level in most elements of the qualification will be able to achieve a level 1 pass. But these are designed to be predominantly entry-level qualifications, and we would generally expect level 1 learners to be taking the VCSE where that's appropriate. Our work-related foundation qualifications will be 100% internally assessed, and we're currently discussing content and assessment approaches with our qualification development groups and stakeholders. So moving on then to the general foundation qualifications. These are intended to offer a broad progression onto GCSE. So within these qualifications, there is some overlap in themes and assessment objectives that could help any learners to progress from these qualifications to the GCSE, or to provide a useful drop-down if learners who start on the GCSE need to take these qualifications instead because of circumstances. However, we are also focused on making sure the General Foundation qualifications are worthwhile and valid qualifications in their own right, and particularly valuable and accessible to entry-level learners where there aren't any general qualifications available to them. Initially, we weren't going to include any external assessment in these qualifications, but it became clear from the feedback we got from stakeholders, schools, teachers, that they thought it would be valuable in the General Foundation to offer some commonality with the GCSEs and to support manageability for schools, but that we needed to do so in an accessible and flexible way, more so than traditional exams. So what we're looking at the moment is whether we can include short external topic tests where appropriate to the subject matter. So we would set these and mark these, but they were offered again within a month-long window. The schools have that kind of flexibility for what works best for yourselves and for your learners, and they can be made to feel as formal or informal as you want to really suit the needs of those learners within your settings. We're currently developing the personal project qualifications, which will replace the individual project within the current Skills Challenge certificate. As the only board that's been offering the Skills Challenge certificate for a number of years, we think we've got a unique and valued insight into what works well with the project and what centres and learners need. We're also really keen to gather your feedback on how we can improve that. We've already done quite a lot of engagement with centres and with learners and taken on board that feedback. And we are hearing that there's a real desire for continuity from the existing assessment to support that transition to the new qualifications, but also with that read across then into the Advanced Skills Baccalaureate Wales to make sure we've got that continuity, not just through into 14 to 16, but also beyond. And then within Skills Suite, so alongside the personal project, we're developing Skills for Life and Skills for Work qualifications. This slide shows the range of Skills for Life units, 28 units available at 5 levels, from entry level 1 up to level 2. And we're particularly focused on making sure that the content at each level is relevant and engaging for those learners, while also being accessible to the wide range of learners that will be taking the units. We know that centres are interested in using the Skills Suite to develop the skills currently developed through the Skills Challenge certificate. And within the Skills for Life units, we're developing community participation and democracy in action to provide replacements for the community and global challenges, respectively. We'll also be providing support and guidance to centres to support the transition from the Skills Challenge certificate to the new units. This shows the 19 Skills for Work units. Within this group, the Enterprise Venture can provide a replacement for the Enterprise and Employability Challenge, and other units within this suite are being developed to complement the VCSE provision, because we know there's real potential across these suites to kind of build a qualification offer that will add real value to the breadth of each learner's curriculum. Development is happening at pace. And due to the number of qualifications that are being developed, we are grouping qualifications into batches. We've met with our qualification development advisory groups to inform the structure and content of the first batch of VCSEs, and now we're reconvening these to discuss the work-related foundation qualifications and the next batch of VCSEs. Writers and reviewers have been recruited for all subjects, and the specification and sample assessment materials have been produced for the first VCSEs in draft form, ready for Qualification Wales to review. And while these are with Qualifications Wales, we're continuing the development of the remaining VCSEs, the work-related foundation qualifications, the project and the skills qualifications, and these will be finalised and submitted over the next few months. We've agreed development and submission timescales with Qualifications Wales. Qualifications have been developed within agreed windows with Qualifications Wales, and there's time built in for that for us to review and respond to feedback. All qualifications will have been submitted to Qualifications Wales by the first half of the spring term next year. And we have a fixed publication date that we believe will be common across all awarding organisations at the start of the autumn term in 2026. On the next slide, you can see a snapshot of the range of organisations that we were engaged with in our development work alongside schools, colleges, and other providers. We developed strong links with a wide variety of external organisations and charities through our work with the Skills Challenge certificate, and we're pleased that the organisations will want to continue to support our work, and we definitely want to continue to support and engage with schools to support delivery as we go through this period of change and beyond. We're providing further details of organisations and resources that can support the delivery of these qualifications as part of our guidance for teaching and our delivery documents. So, next steps. Over the next few months, in line with those timelines we've just gone through, we'll be continuing to create and refine our specifications, our sample assessment materials, supporting documentation, with the approval of all qualifications achieved by the summer term of this academic year, to allow the specifications and sample assessment materials to be published in September, ahead of delivery from September 2027. Finally, if you've got any questions about our new qualifications, you want to find out more about how we can support your curriculum, our regional representative, Sophie Dobbs, will be really happy to meet with you and provide more information. We're really committed to making sure we can work with you through this period to embed these new qualifications and maximise the value they can add for yourselves and for learners.
Okay, thanks, Richard, and thanks, Delyth, for giving us the input there. I think the important thing for us in wave two is just moving on from wave one with a new suite of qualifications, and the approach we're taking is the same. I think particularly in terms of wave three, what we've tried to do is focus on areas that we feel best suit WJC and its knowledge, skills and understanding as well. So what you will notice is we haven't gone for the full suite of VCSEs. What we've done is looked at our existing portfolio of qualifications, as Richard's alluded to, and also where there's synergy between new GCSEs that are being developed as well. Because what we're keen to do is ensure that what we can provide in the round to you as schools and colleges is making sure there's a coherent offer that you can offer to your learners as well. So what we're trying to do is make sure that everything that we do can be joined up with something else in order to make sure that we've got something that learners can access in the most appropriate way. The broad range of qualifications, and notwithstanding perhaps some of the challenges in terms of delivery of those, are there to provide all learners the opportunities that they should be getting as individuals in terms of, you know, what they can access, how they can access it, and knowledge and skills that are required. I think just want to pick up on Richard's point then in terms of the skills suite and the personal project. Clearly, a skills challenge certificate has been at the heart of WJC delivery for a number of years. And we know how well respected that has been and how schools and learners have responded to that. Again, notwithstanding in some settings, maybe some challenges in terms of access. But what we've tried to do is be reflective of what we've learned in previous iterations of skills qualifications and made sure that the units that we develop now and the personal project that we develop now are kind of built on that knowledge and understanding to make sure, again, we've got coherence. And I think it's really important, and Richard mentioned this as well, what that progression is out of Key Stage 4 into Key Stage 5, where learners going into the Advanced Skills Baccalaureate Wales as well, making sure you've got that continuity of provision that allows that to happen in a seamless way. The other point I wanted to make in terms of the wave three is clearly this is where it becomes more competitive in terms of the market. You know, there will be other providers that will be offering a range of qualifications in those particular areas, in the VCSEs and in terms of the skills, general foundation qualifications. I think if you continue to kind of support what we're doing here, and Richard's alluded to Sophie Dobbs, our representative, being available for conversations, we'd really want to work with you just to work out how best this suite of qualifications been delivered and what it is that we can do to aid the seamless delivery within your settings. Clearly, choice is important, and you can choose to go wherever you want. I think hopefully what you'll see from today is we've got a kind of coherent way through the qualification suite, and the support that you will get will be of the same calibre of the support that you get for GQs, professional learning, support, digital learning, and all the resources that go with it. So hopefully you'll see that we are kind of meeting the needs and expectations of the curriculum running through, the qualifications being developed in a co-constructive way, working with you and your colleagues in order to do that, and then a suite of qualifications that will hopefully meet the aspirations of those learners as they progress through the education system. Can I open it up for any further comment or questions that anybody may have in relation to what we've said? Please do in the chat, or please put your hands up and ask the question orally. Go on, we've got a hand up.
Sorry to hold you up.
Sorry, no problem.
I missed, I muted out for a bit. When you were talking about the skills suite,
yes.
Do we have any information yet in terms of what it's worth points-wise or GCSE equivalents or anything? Did I miss that?
Rich?
Short answer is no. We're waiting for Welsh Government to talk about the learning entitlement framework and what that might mean in terms of breadth of offer and how it relates to the Welsh Government guidance. But
Okay.
no. And to answer the question in the chat, same answer with respect to KPIs as well.
Any idea when we might find out? Because obviously I need to plan in terms of, is it what if units are worth a full GCSE or half, or
my understanding is that the Welsh Government, having published the outcome of their consultation on the indicators framework, we're going to come up with something later in this year, but it may be that Matthew's got the answer to that because he's put his hand up. Might be a new question.
Oh, exciting.
Matthew?
I certainly haven't got the answer to that question. Did you ever met me? I was just gonna just a general thing, you know, supportive of the direction. Thanks for the meeting. It's just my real concern about workload for teachers and learners, and in delivering these new suite of qualifications. Unfortunately, I just don't believe the narrative that this assessment of workload has actually been carried out by Quals Wales. And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here, but actually, when you see what a year 10 pupil is now facing as regards coursework, it looks like a pretty thin gruel over the next 2 years. So hopefully the assessment criteria and the workload for these new qualifications has to be really risk assessed sensibly to see exactly what the impact is on our teaching staff, the input of marks, the moderating of marks internally, e-assessment, don't get me started, Ian. Obviously the reduction in fees of the assessment, I'll just throw it in there. But no, seriously, the impact on learners is my main concern. And these new qualifications coming down the line is the only exciting part I can see with these new qualifications. Let's get them right, but let's make them reasonable as regards the workload for learners and for teachers. That's me done.
Thanks, Matthew. Richard, do you want to just quick comment? Yes.
So if it's any consolation, we've spent quite a lot of time, was it this morning? Feels like a long time ago, talking about exactly that issue. It's something that we're not in full control of, as you know, but there's certainly things that we can and will be doing to try and mitigate the impact as much as we can. And we'll be coming out with some of those kind of ideas and thoughts later in the year. It's also, I think it's worth saying that feedback has directly influenced how we've sought to design these qualifications. So again, there are requirements around all of these suites of qualifications that Qualifications Wales have put in place to make sure that they are doing what they need to do from a validity point of view, but also things like internal versus external assessment balance. We are designing qualifications with that in mind, and in the context of the fact that the GCSEs are already in schools and we're having exactly the kind of feedback you've just given. So while I would not pretend that these qualifications will do everything to reduce the workload issues that we know very well what's going on in schools, I'm hopeful that we'll be making decisions that will enable that to be reduced for at least for the Way 3 qualifications as much as possible. But just to reassure you, it's something that we are talking about a lot, and we are explicitly building that inside of these qualifications and the administration of them in due course.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
That's comforting, at least.
Yeah, no, certainly something we're looking at, Matthew, and there's been lots of representation, as I'm sure you were aware, coming our way in terms of the delivery. Okay, if we're done, just to remind you, we will do another one of these seminars in the spring term on a similar theme, but just updated in terms of where we are in terms of the development. But as I say, if in the meantime you require any further information, you know where we are. If you want Sophie to come out to your school to talk in a little bit more detail about the developments to date, please take up that offer and utilise us in the best way you can. So. Okay, we'll call it a night. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thanks everybody.